Okay, good morning everyone, and welcome to the second day of the Large Herd Seminar. And as Mike was saying, congratulations for surviving last night. Those that were here last night, it was a very good evening, so thank you very much for everyone for that. Those who don't know me, my name is Robin Hawkey. I'm a Senior Nutritionist at More Value Feed Solutions, and More Value Feed Solutions are delighted to be associated with this conference and to be involved in a lot of the research that's been going on and presented through the couple of days. The theme of this year's conference is investing in the future, and I think which is most appropriate because many herds are expanding at the moment, and as we all know, when herds expand, it's not just about going from 200 to 400 cows, whatever is it, it's actually the extra investment in expertise and management that actually goes alongside it, and especially during these periods of growth is very, very important. So the first paper of today's seminar is entitled Managing the Expanding Dairy Herd, and I'm delighted to welcome again Dr. Gordie Jones. As I mentioned yesterday, Gordie qualified as a vet in 1977 and practiced for 22 years. Now an independent dairy performance consultant and a partner in a 4,000 cow unit, one of Gordon's many claims to fame was hosting Adam Henson's Country File and showing him around a few years ago. And on the back of that, I think Gordie's also been involved in the design of Nocton dairies, and which also led to a subsequent visit from the Panorama film crew. So that must have been quite an experience as well. So Gordie, on behalf of More Value Feed Solutions, I'd now like to invite you to present your paper, Managing the Expanding Herd. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. First of all, I want to congratulate Richard and Warwick on yesterday's meeting. It was spectacular. For those of you that missed it, I thought you missed an awesome day. For me, I've been to lots of meetings and enjoyed this one immensely, sitting there listening to the other speakers. So the information presented by everybody yesterday was outstanding. I hope to offer a little bit more of insight into my scattered brain and how I look at dairying. It took 25 years for me to admit this. I was a practicing vet for 22 years, and when people asked where I was from, I would say Michigan. If they asked for more information, I would say Southeast Michigan. If they asked for a lot more, I would stop. Now I can finally admit, after a little bit of success, that I grew up in the inner city of Detroit. So I grew up in the true ghetto of a city which was a zillion miles away from dairy cows. So it's, in fact, I'm reconnecting with some of the old neighbors who have also fled the city, and when they find out I'm a dairy expert that goes around the world, they keep going, where was a cow when we grew up? And so probably that helps me look at dairy farms. I look at dairy farms from an outsider's point of view and ask why, rather than from 3 generations who go, we've always done it that way, and don't change. So I get to ask the question why often, and then we'll get a different scope at it. So we're going to talk a little bit about my dairy because I expanded from an empty field. It's a fun way to expand, and we're going to talk about organizing the dairy, expanding the dairy, and playing with it. Again, as I said yesterday, I'm from the center of the state, Nakusa. Nakusa is a very, very, very boring spot in the center of the state. 60 miles, all the way 60 miles to my west is 2 roads and nothing but black bear, an occasional mountain lion, just wilderness. It's pretty boring. Nakusa is this way. There was a sign at the high school that said, Wednesday evening, Nakusa High School ice fishing practice. I'm in Wisconsin. It gets winter. We get cold. Our water freezes. I had to see what ice fishing practice looked like. So I headed over to the high school. And everybody was getting ready for ice fishing. You can tell it's at a public event at the high school because if it were at a private event, there would be a 6-pack of beer next to every bucket. But they're getting ready to look down the hole in the ice. Okay, trends in the North America dairy industry over the last 25 years can best be described by the word change. One of my ironies of life was I escaped Michigan because I hated cubicles and freestalls. I had to run to Wisconsin where everybody was in a 40-cow dairy and they let their cows outside to graze, and this was the world I went to. In fact, the cubicles of Michigan 35 years ago looked like you had taken a cow and you had dipped her in manure and you were going to deep fry her. You couldn't get more poo on a cow with a trowel. So I left to go to those little barns of Wisconsin to jump out of a warm pickup truck into a warm dairy barn, fix a broken cow, and go on to the next broken cow. And in fact, the more cows you as a dairyman could break, the happier I was. If you kept breaking them all, I'd go, I'm here to fix them, and thought that was my job. A few people changed my mind later. Today, the dairy industry continues to expand. One of my promises to all dairymen is you will double your herd size 4 times in your dairying life. Pretty easy when you had 50 cows. They became 100, then they became 204. Now they're becoming 4, 8, and 16, and today I'm sitting on a 4,000 cow dairy. I started with Fair Oaks. We were at about 10,000 cows there. Today we're at about 60,000. And we're going, the whole group probably has 100,000 that I play with. So the dairy industry is changing rapidly, but one of the things that I was able to, because of Nocton, I had to invite every humane organization from Europe onto my dairy. I entertained the WISPA ladies, World Compassion in Dairying with Philip Embre. I brought in, you know, in America, if hello, I'm from, somebody comes, you know, I'm morally safer from 60 Minutes comes. Well, I had Panorama, which is your 60 Minutes. And suddenly they wanted to impugn, show me Fair Oaks dairies was terrible, my 60,000 cows were bad. They put a dairy farmer in the middle of my parlor. He started to cry. And I'm going, oh shit. He was crying like a baby. And the producer was there who was a Vulcan. No, maybe that's a vegan. Either way, they're otherworldly to me. And he was smiling. Tony, the dairyman's crying. Adam, the reporter, is putting a mic in the phone going, this makes you sad, doesn't it? It's terrible. Look at these cows. And Tony is bawling like a baby, a retired dairyman. And he goes, yes, it's terrible. He goes, I miss my cows so much, and these are the happiest cows I've ever seen. I had a producer go, shit, you can't be right. I flew you all the way from England. And the guy goes, I'm sorry, these are happy cows. And from that point on, Panorama didn't know what to do. They just stumbled around my dairy. I told them, like yesterday, the history of the cow, and Tony, the dairyman, is going, did you get that? Did you get that? Put that on your tape about our cow in her place. So as we go forward on dairies, remember this about the facilities you build. Buildings are tools. They're tools. Think about this. What is a drill? What's a portable drill? A portable drill is a hole anywhere you want it. I carry one of those and I make holes everywhere. They're just, that's all a drill is it's a portable tool. It's a hole anywhere you want a hole, or it's a screw that's screwed in or removed. It's just a tool. It's not anything but a tool to accomplish the job I want. That's what dairies do. Buildings are tools that let you implement your, or if you're a consultant, his or her dairy plan. It's about your plan. So facilities last a long, long, long time. And I've always said there are a few genes within dairymen worldwide. And one of those genes is the lean-to gene. And the lean-to gene means I have a facility, I won't give it up, and I'll just build another one onto it. And it's a gene unique to the dairy industry around the world. So facilities last a long time, and your decisions last a long time. So within your decisions, you want to make sure that you've made good decisions on your expansion. And by not putting in the United States, not putting a vertical silo at the end of a 60-cow dairy would be, putting one at the end would be a terrible decision because we can't expand further. So think about that when you're looking at that. So goals of management, you've got to think about, as I laid out Central Sands and as I laid out Fair Oaks Dairies, I want to know what a dairyman wants to do. What are your plans? How do you want to manage a dairy? You can manage a dairy any way you choose, but once you've built the facility, it then tells you how you're going to work cows, how you're going to accomplish the jobs. So the goals of management, you got to get cows pregnant, you got to check that they're pregnant, get them bred, you have to vaccinate the herd, you might use targeted breeding, OVSync. You have to treat cows. You have to find, identify, and then treat cows. You have to trim feet. You have to get all these jobs done. And you have to think of these jobs before you build your facility. So if you think about those that way, you start to think about what you want to accomplish. And then I'll give you a few goals. I want to go back to the cow. I want to talk about her and what we do with her, and how her life is supposed to be within that. So some of the toughest decisions are, how are you going to ventilate that? I think in England there ought to be no decisions. You're near thermal neutral for the cow. You don't get up into her heat zone very much, so as you get to the THI of about 18 to 20 degrees Celsius, that's where cows start heat stress and you're most happy. As I told you yesterday, if you invite a cow into your house, you let her set the thermostat, her favorite temperature is going to be 4. Well, that would have been like your last summer. So she's fine. I want you to be careful when you mechanically ventilate. You don't have manure that freezes, so we don't have to worry about that very often. And you have a little bit of heat stress. And so let's keep these things, make decisions about how you're going to do it. Are you going to take care of cows in 3-row sides or 4-row sides of cubicles? Are the stalls going to be head to head, tail to tail? Building, bedding, are you going to use sand or anything else that's deep? We won't talk much about that. Are you going to have a separate hospital parlor? Are you going to use 2-way returns to the parlor or single returns? Those are some of that. This is not my bailiwick. I live in a dairy where I get great advice, and I live in a dairy that I make sure the costs work. You've got 2 of the best financial guys I know to speak to you, both again today, both Dr. Bethard and Dr. Fetro. But the cost of dairying, feed cost, John hit yesterday and we're not going to do anything. Young stock, Greg hit yesterday, we're not going to do much. This I want to talk about as we go through the idea of managing a dairy. Labor. It is the one thing I really can control. It is the one thing I can reduce more than how I purchase maize, how I buy my forages. Everything else is 15%. So we're going to take a little trip to Central Sands Dairy. I milk 3,500 cows 3 times a day. We have between 600 and 1,000 dry cows there. 4-row free stalls for the cows. We get about 70 pounds to 74 pounds right now out of jerseys, and if I energy correct that milk, it's over 90 pounds. It's over 42 liters a cow with a jersey. I'll show you a picture of them and talk to you about it. I do it on a 72 cow rotary because that lets me manage people better. I calve about 300 to 500 cows every month. Our dry cow barns are 6-row. We put more cows into the dry cow facility because of yesterday's ration. I'm not worried about, this is heresy among nutritionists. I'm not worried about 30 inches of bunk space for my close-up cows because of the ration I feed. If you don't feed the Goldilocks diet, you need 30 inches in a 2-row barn for your close-up cows. I will emphasize that. If you're feeding a steam-up, a separate close-up ration, an anionic salt ration, you may want a 2-row 30 inches. Whether or not you're going to do a digester, we have a methane digester. We run a cell count when I was there for 5 years of 125,000 to 150,000. So that's the dairy. The front end of it looks like a Northwoods Lodge. The people of Wisconsin say it looks like Cabela's where you buy outdoor equipment. And I said that wasn't accidental. That's where I spend all my money. It looks like a Northwood Lodge with a stone face. We sell 5 lorries of milk, 5 tankers every day, and 5.5 right now we're pushing out of there. So it's about getting milk out the front door. It's about getting as much milk as I can out the front door with the limited amount of people. The WISPA ladies at my dairy, they were fun. They walked down among 4,000 cows. I have all kinds of colored cows. There are red ones, blue ones, green ones, white. There's linebackers, there's Dutch belted. So there's a menagerie of cows at my dairy. And you can identify a lot of them. So I always know where they're at. And as I'm walking down, I'm telling the WISPA ladies where the cows will be. And they got the idea that I knew where 4,000 different individual cows were. With a Holstein, you can't even do that with 3. Barely can I identify the 4th one. But my cows were there, and the WISPA ladies, they said something on my dairy that they will not admit to after leaving my dairy. They said, "We can't imagine 4,000 cows being this serene." It was just quiet, no people there, and just my cows doing what they're supposed to do: eat, drink, or go to bed. So this is a facility. I live on 80 acres. It's a quarter mile from side to side here, end to end. Side to side is a half mile long. Over at the far corner is the swimming pool for the dairy. It holds about 22 million gallons. And that's the dairy from the air. So, rules that still apply on all dairies. Cow comfort is first as you're building it. Better forage is the best. Let's go through what we did yesterday. And then pregnancy rate means you keep your cows. Cows have to get pregnant. The dry cow program stops early fresh cow losses. This is what we talked about yesterday. I do not want to cull a cow in the first 60 days unless I have to, and the less of those cows I cull, the better off it is. So I want a dairy facility, a management, and a nutrition program that come together in a symphony that says nobody's leaving here for the first 90 days. Nobody leaves. We have a survival policy that says we keep them healthy. They get to give half of their milk and then they can leave. Milk quality is everything. Because I have great milk quality, I have options where to sell my milk. I have people fighting for the milk at our dairy. So nutrition, dry cows, cow comfort, get them pregnant, people get everything done again. We'll emphasize this a couple more times, but if my cows have a problem, I don't look for the bug that causes it. I don't look for E. coli, Salmonella dublum. Instead, I look for Gordie Jones. I look for Peter Jones. I look for Chava Gomez. It is a human with 2 names. Somebody's caused the problems for my cow. I'm probably the only vet in North America that doesn't believe in the germ theory. I commingled at Fair Oak 16,000 cows from more than 19 states, brought them in. When you come to my dairy and you ask if you have to put boots on, I say, yes, you have to put boots on. It's to protect your herd. I already have every bug in North America. So when you visit me, you can't give me a new bug. But my cows don't show those bugs because of air, bunk, and comfort. We'll talk about later. So this is something I got from John Early in a book. This is Bottlenecks, and this is a new way to look at dairies. I want you to think about problems on a dairy this way. A bottleneck is a rate-limiting problem. Think of it as water through a pipeline, and only the biggest dent in that pipeline is the rate-limiting problem. Only fixing that big dent gets me more output on the dairy. I can go to this little bump here, I can work on it with thousands of dollars, and I get no more output because it's not the rate-limiting problem. Bottlenecks are rate-limiting problems. They interfere with achieving your goals. Any improvement pays off in better output, and before it's completely fixed, something else will become the bottleneck. It's a hard concept to go. Dairymen invite veterinarians out. Veterinarians are trap shooters. We're sporting clay guys. In fact, what a dairyman does is he throws up a problem, you shoot it. Give me another one. Boom, you shoot it. Well, you're shooting the wrong problems at times. You need to have meaningful conversations with your clients. Dairymen need to look at their problems and find the rate-limiting problem. Find the problem on their dairy as they build it that does it. So improving the dairy is surveying the status and performance trends of the dairy, compare it to your personal goals, identify the bottlenecks, and then open them up. And then repeat the process. The fun thing is whether you're a dairyman, I had my dairymen now running around their dairies looking for bottlenecks. What's the next one, Doc? What's the next one holding us back? In fact, as I left northeast Wisconsin, There is a saying up there, if you're not getting more than 85 pounds, about 37, 38 liters, I don't want to have any discussion in 4 decimal points that involves any dairy that's under almost 90 pounds. The first 90 pounds in a Holstein is the easy money. And if you're not at 90 pounds, something is seriously bottlenecked on your dairy or on your neighbor's dairy. Something's wrong if you're not breaking 85 to 90 pounds. So it's just that easy. Books on dairy management. This is a highly recommended book. It's called The Goal by Goldratt. It's about the limit of constraints. It's about bottlenecks. I recommend you read it. It's a short novella about a man running a factory, and this factory is your dairy, only he's not talking about dairies. And the industry is giving him numbers and averages, and he's not meeting those, and somebody turned it around, so he looked at bottlenecks, and it's one of the best dairy management books I can recommend. The other is The E-Myth by Gerber, the Entrepreneurial Myth. It means that I thought I was a good veterinarian so I could run a good dairy business. What I was a good veterinarian. I didn't run a good business until I got business people to help me. Dairymen being dairymen aren't necessary. There's a saying in Wisconsin, dairy farming run as a business is a great way of life. Dairy farming run as a way of life is a poor business. And so think about this. The Entrepreneurial Myth is a fun book. It's about Susie. Susie is a kick-butt pie maker. She is like the world's best pie maker, only her pie shop is failing miserably. And Gerber meets with her and talks to Susie about how to fix the business of making pies. Doesn't tell her a thing about how to make the world's best pies. She already does that. What he talked to her about was how to set up her 2-person business. And setting up dairies, it's about this. So this is part of the strength of it. The bottlenecks I see on new dairies, on managing dairies, on expanding dairies, about 65% of them either involve the fresh and dry cows, cow comfort, a little bit about what might be fed, but certainly where it's fed, how it's fed, when it's fed, and why it's fed. So 65% of them do not involve getting cows pregnant, clean, or taking care of the babies. My bottlenecks are bigger than that, and they're usually in cow comfort, in facilities and whatnot. We'll talk about this. This is a Spanish dairy, just wonderful cow comfort. Think about this as you leave this facility. As you leave this meeting hall, a dairy cow should only do 3 things. She should stand to eat and drink. She should stand to milk. And all the rest of the time she ought to be laying down, trying to decide, should we continue wiretapping the rest of the United States emails? Whatever. She should start to be thinking about things like that. She should just be laying down, chewing her cud, becoming a couch potato. This is a Minnesota dairy, and it's a perfect dairy. These are cows doing just what I want. One drinking, everybody, the cows standing or eating, and everybody else is in bed. That is a perfect picture. You as dairymen and consultants get so used to looking at abnormal that it becomes normal. I had Tim O'Hara. Tim O'Hara used to videotape his dairy cows. And he would videotape them at night, and then he would eat in the morning, and he called it, he watched cow porn. He was looking for cows in heat. And he would call it cow porn, and he was looking to see who was ramming around in heat that night. And so Tim really knew what his herd did. And when I tried to explain to Tim that he wasn't laying his cows down right, he goes, Gordie, they don't lay down at night either. That's normal. I got video to prove it. And I would sit there and go, wait a minute, get them in bed. Okay, let's talk about concentric consistency as you move forward in your management. As you start to build your dairy, as you expand, I want you to think about dairies differently. When I'm on a 40-cow dairy, it was easy to see who the fresh cow was, both of them, who the middle lactation cows were, the 6 of them, who the tail enders were, and then where we calved them in the corner, where the dry cows stood at the end, and we understood a dairy. As I started to get on multiple 1,000-cow dairies, I started to go, my eyes would wiggle, I'd fall over on my back because I couldn't figure out a dairy. I'll give you a different way to look at it. Ask yourself what happens for 24 hours on a dairy. What does a day look like? So how many times is the cow milked? How much time does she spend on the parlor? When is feed delivered? Yesterday I stood with a group of dairymen, and if you're a dairy cow, the happiest point for a dairy cow, I'm trying to get to the happy point, and once I get dead middle in this herd, this is the happy point. This is the point where me, a slow-moving prey species, dairy cow, now looks and goes, the only guys that are going to die are the ones on the edge. I'm in the dead middle, and I am happy, and I don't care how many of there are. The more there are, the deeper it goes out, the happier I am. I am a slow-moving prey species. So when is she fed? We'll talk about that for a second. How long is she locked up? Here's a take-home number. That take-home number is you get 4 hours max to screw around with a cow that's not eating, drinking, or going to bed. So you can put her in the parlor for 4 hours. You can put her in a parlor and a palpation rail for 4 hours. You can put her in a parlor, a palpation rail, and a holding area for 4 hours. But if you exceed 4 hours, you've taken away from either lying down time, eating time, or drinking time, and that costs you milk. So I usually call it 3.5, but in England I'll give you an extra half hour to play with the cow. You get 4 hours, 20 hours a day it has to be hers. So think about a day, what does it look like? Our cows come into the happy area, the holding area. This one is the happiest cow I've got. She's in dead middle. She's looking around and going, somebody else is going to die, not me. And she goes, and I'm in the middle. And it's just happy. And then they step onto my parlor, and when they step onto the parlor, when she steps onto the parlor, I have the Walmart greeter, the Asda greeter. As you come in the door, you know, welcome to Asda, have a great day. Well, the guy comes in, welcome to Central Sands, honey. While you're here, housekeeping is making your bed. We're vacuuming your floors. The chef has whipped up something special for you, waiting for you when you get back to your stall. And think about this. When I put these jerseys in my dairies, my Mexican milkers saw jerseys for the first time. They were rare in my part of America, and they looked at them and they called them udders with cows attached. The little jerseys came in with great big udders. So we milk them. She gets 3.5 hours total in a day in here. She rides the wheel. She's with her herd mates. This is where Tony cried. He saw all my cows chewing their cud, looking, smiling, bright, and Adam went, we give up. And said, we're going to have to go get the things. Housekeeping is out here making the beds. They're making sure the beds are fluffed, making sure contaminants are out of the bed. We then vacuum the floor. After vacuuming the floor, the chef has whipped something up. The single biggest mistake you can make, well, I'm going to drop back for a second. Cows are crepuscular. Crepuscular means they're dawn dusk creatures. Cows, I'm going to make you an ancient cow for a few seconds. You're an ancient wild cow, and you're going to explain to Junior, who is drinking your milk, that you have to wean Junior. And you're going to say, Junior, here's what we do. We're cows. We move slowly. We hang in herds. We go out at dawn. We go out at dusk. And we eat as fast as we can. And after we've eaten as fast as we can, we boogie back to relative safety, we barf that up, chew it again, and lay there. And Junior goes, whoa, Mom. Why don't we just eat slower and not do that puking up stuff? And Mom goes, you remember your Aunt Harriet? And you go, yeah? She's not with us anymore. She was a slow eater. Think about what cows do. Big rumen, go out, harvest feed as fast as they can, go back to relative safety, lay down for 6.5 hours, barfing up their food, chewing their cud, trying to make great decisions. Just lay there thinking about the world. That's a cow. We've now made her milk 160 pounds. The top cow in the world. What is the milk of the top cow in the world? What's the best genetics we've got? The best cow right now in the world did 72,000 pounds of milk in 365 days. Take a calculator out, divide that, and you'll get just under 200 pounds a day. That's a daily average. What do you think she did at peak milk? She was milked 3 times a day. This cow was over 100 pounds each milking. That's the genetics. I have never been on a dairy in the world where genetics are the bottleneck. except the dairyman's genetics. It's never the cows. So the single biggest error you can make on any facility is to not present food on exit from parlor. She wants to eat, she wants to go to bed. If food's not there, she goes to bed. And she lays down and starts to rest and chew what she has. And if you don't have more than 50% of her dry matter intake at one presented feeding, your best cow may not get her full meal to lay down. I'm not against grazing, I just know it's damn hard to give 100 pounds 3 times a day when you graze. I just know it's hard to harvest that much forage on your own. So now, let's go, the housekeeping does that. Go back to the maternity pen on any given dairy. Ask yourself at the maternity pen, what happens here? Everything happens here. This is where life starts. This is the fun spot of the dairy. Go to the maternity barn of your dairy, ask yourself what happens here, and say, how does this cow get back here again? So what does a year look like? How many group changes? How many times does a cow have to introduce herself to another cow? How many times does she go through that? How many ration changes? If you're listening to me, she doesn't change rations. When do you breed her? What's your voluntary waiting period? How many pen moves? How long is she dry? Are you giving her 45 days of dry? At least. I do 60. What's a year look like? Follow around the dairy and ask yourself how a cow travels around that dairy. So where does she go? How does she travel? Where does she spend her time? And then go back to the maternity pen. Ask yourself what 2 years looks like. Look at Junior. Ask yourself, how does Junior get back to the maternity pen? So what does 2 years look like on a dairy? When is Junior given colostrum? Where does she go from the hutches to the weaning group? Where does she go to rations? How does she go? As you look at a dairy in one day, let's go here. These would be my hutches. My hutches are made for colder weather, and I have littler calves, so I throw my little jerseys in there. And that's what 2 years. How do I make her into a dairy cow? So 1 day, 1 year, and 2 years. Ask yourself, these are the 3 circles of life. As you're going to expand your dairies, how do you make a day, a year, and 2 years work? That's how I discover bottlenecks on everybody's dairy. I start about circles. So it's a circle of life. Value of SOPs. Everybody's certified in their position. I have never been to a new country that I haven't gone almost for my first visit every time to a McDonald's. I have to go into a world-famous restaurant every time I go somewhere. And I always go into a McDonald's because McDonald's does magic. My wife hates it. I was in Venice and I walked into a McDonald's and my wife almost killed me. And I want to see who's working in McDonald's and I want to see if they're doing the magic. And I asked for French fries. McDonald's, whether it's in Beijing, whether it's in Rio de Janeiro, whether it's in Venice, gives me hot French fries. And they do it with 3 people, the very young, the very old, and the very stupid. The uneducated. The entry-level workforce. They do it. And that's what dairying should be. I can make magic happen at my dairy because all the decisions at my dairy have been made by me in a protocol that happens by my people. They make the decisions, but I laid them out so they can make them. So as you're doing this, dairy personnel are certified in their position. Everybody understands their job. People have passed an exam, either oral or written, on my dairy. When you pass an exam, you know your job. When you know your job on my dairy, you're happy. I was on my uncle's dairy. This is where the Detroit kid got to dairy. It was on my uncle's 25-cow dairy. And my job description there was, don't let me catch you standing still. So I had to keep moving. And I never knew what my job was. Once you know what your job was, you're happy. So the people who work for me understand their jobs. They understand, these guys understand that oxytocin gives down milk. They can tear apart a milking machine. They understand that if you hit a cow, it gives adrenaline. Adrenaline stops oxytocin. We don't get milk, so nobody hits a cow because it's a house of mothers. Think about this, A, B, and C. As you build your dairy, I want you to think about air, bunk, and comfort. Subdivide the dairy into air, bunk, and comfort, and know that the bunk is the first place to look for bottlenecks. Not in the amount of choline, not in the amount of methionine and lysine ratios, but in the amount of pure groceries given to a cow at the right time. Let her eat and go to bed. This is Alex Bach. You've had him here. Alex spent a summer with me. This is about 47 herds that were fed the exact same ration. They varied by almost 30 pounds of milk, between 45 and 74 pounds of milk. 56% of the variation, more than half, was about push-ups, refusals, stall design, and everything else. Same genetic cows were up and down by 56% of it wasn't your ration, Mr. Nutritionist, Mrs. Nutritionist, Miss Nutritionist. Instead, it was the facility. It was how the people manage cows. As you're looking into your expansions, think about this. Think about this. This is the relationship between resting and milk yield. This is from the Minor Institute. Whether you're at 7 hours of laying down or 16 hours, every hour you lay down more, you get 3.7 pounds of milk more. Fluff the bed, lay down with a full stomach, and we make milk. It's magic. Cows can make 85 pounds of milk if you just get out of the way. Cows take 3 positions in the stall. This is regular. Those 2 cows up there are Superman. They're long, 1 or 2 legs forward. Let them stretch out like that. And then the one in the middle at the bottom is the tight position. In a freestall cubicle, she should take all 3 positions. This is Fair Oaks cows. Freestalls fail. You've got this in your notes because of lack of cushion. The neck rail's in the wrong place, no lunge space, and they fail because they put stalls against the wall. No prey species has ever decided to go against the wall and say, I'm going to lay down here. Whatever cow laid down like this has been removed from the gene pool. Somebody else ate her for a living. They don't like that. In fact, cows learn to back into those stalls because they want to see the other cows. Milk is the absence of stress. The higher and higher we go, we have cows today that we're not managing well simply because we haven't taken care of the air, bunk, and comfort. We simply have to do that, and you don't get more milk out of a cow by holding a gun and saying, look, I have your daughter, and unless you give me 30,000 pounds of milk this year, I'm going to go kill her. She's doomed. You can't make cows give milk. What you do is ask them. Milk is the absence of stress. As you remove those stresses, you get milk. If you get it right in your expansions, it looks like this. This is Fair Oaks with these cows all laying down. We're overcrowded by 1 cow. She's looking for the 1 bed. These are my cows at Central Sands. These are some of my mixed pens of crossbreds, Jerseys. If you get it right, it looks like this. If you get it wrong, this is a $13 million facility, brand new. There's no poo, there's no manure on anything there. Look at that. And they got it wrong. Cows are laying in the alley, cows are everywhere wrong. If you get your expansion wrong, it looks like this. It is a matter of centimeters and inches. You get it right, and it works. You get it wrong, and it just ends. Note to consultants, as I bring you guys onto my dairy, I don't care what you know until I know that you care. Once I know that you care, I'll be able to do it. My last 2 things is today normal, without usual excuses, and then I got 2 more slides and we'll end. Come on. ID the problem as a consultant, offer the solution. I either lost my battery. Is it the bottleneck? What are the solutions? Take ownership of the solution. Don't make general suggestions. Don't tell me I can do this, this, or this, because when I finally choose C and it doesn't work, you get to fold your arms up, look at me, and go, you chose poorly. I hate consultants. Come in and tell me what I need to do, why it's going to work, give me the logic and the benefit from it. Tell me what's going to happen and be done. Be there for implementation and that. With that, we'll end. I got to catch up. We're done with that. And so with that, I'm done. Thanks.
Wow.
What a great start to the day, and that was just phenomenal. So on behalf of everybody here, Gordie, I'd just like to thank you so much. I don't think time is long enough to listen to Gordie, and I'm just so grateful for you coming over and spending 2-3 days with us in the UK. It's fantastic.